Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever stopped and wondered what really shapes your personality? I mean, why are some people just naturally optimistic, while others seem to lean towards pessimism? Well, it turns out the answer might not be so complicated. It could all come down to a simple hidden ratio happening inside your brain, a ratio that literally shapes the reality you experience. So, to get our heads around this, we first have to talk about how our brain actually builds its version of the world. And let me tell you, it's way weirder than you probably think. It's not really like a camera, faithfully recording everything. It's more like a reality blender. So let me ask you a question, point blank. Is your memory real? I mean, really think about it. Is the memory of what you ate for breakfast this morning fundamentally any different in your brain than the memory of the last incredible movie you saw? And the answer, which is kind of mind-blowing, is no, not really. Your brain doesn't slap a little real or fake sticker on the information it takes in. Once an experience gets processed, it all just becomes data. It's all encoded as these equivalent little things called memory units. And this is where it gets really wild. For your brain, all these different kinds of input are basically on a level playing field. The stress from a genuine argument you had, the excitement from a superhero movie, or even just a powerful daydream you had, it's all just raw material. It's all just information that your brain has to sort through and try to balance. Now, this has some pretty powerful consequences. Think about it. When our diet of new, fresh external experiences gets really low, like say for prisoners or for some elderly folks who don't get out much, the brain doesn't have a choice. It has to start relying more on its own internal loops. It just starts replaying old thoughts, old memories, over and over again, which can lead to this kind of semi-melancholic state. The mind is essentially running on reruns. And that leads us straight into the danger zone. What happens when that reality blender of ours gets jammed, stuck in a loop? Well, this is how these things called false cycles start to form, and they are at the very root of a lot of personality issues. So how does this trap actually snap shut? It's a pretty nasty four-step cycle. First, you start with biased inputs. Maybe you're only watching negative news all day. That builds up a skewed bank of memories, which then starts generating false thoughts. Like the world is a terrible place. And finally, that thought creates its own feedback. You become afraid to go outside, which only reinforces your original belief. Boom, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, these dangerous loops tend to fork into two main paths. You've got your false positive loops, which can lead to this grandiose, over-the-top optimism, a belief that you're invincible. And then on the flip side, you have the false negative loops, which lead directly to pessimism, paranoia, and just a general feeling of melancholy. Starting to sound familiar, right? These are starting to look a lot like actual personality traits we all recognize. So if our brains are this vulnerable, is there a way to measure our own balance? How can we tell it we're drifting too far one way or the other? Well, this is where this model gets really, really powerful. It suggests that it all boils down to just a single ratio. It's called the sensory feedback ratio, or just R for short. Think of it like a mental diet. S stands for sensory input. That's all the new, fresh experiences coming in from the outside world. F is for internal feedback. That's your own thoughts, your memories, your daydreams. So the ratio, R, is just asking a simple question. What percentage of your total mental diet is fresh external stuff versus recycled internal stuff? And here it is, the magic number. The research points to a critical threshold, 0.4. When your R value drops below this number, your mind is officially in a high-risk zone. It means you're operating on less than 40% fresh external input. And that makes you incredibly susceptible to getting trapped in those internal feedback loops we were just talking about. Okay, now for the real payoff. Let's connect this abstract number to actual concrete personality types. We can literally map out how these different balances can create completely different ways of being a person in the world. Check this out. It's all laid out right here. At the very top, if your R value is 0.8 or higher, you are super anchored in reality, very stable, very pragmatic. The real sweet spot seems to be between 0.6 and 0.8. That's where you're resilient, you're flexible. But just look what happens when we dip below 0.5. That's when internal biases really start to creep in, leading to fanatical or even paranoid traits. And once you're under that critical 0.4 line, well, that's when you land in those really pessimistic or grandiose states we saw earlier. And the model gets even more specific, which is fascinating. It suggests that our different senses carry different kinds of risks. Our internal vision, our imagination, is so powerful that people who are very visual might have a higher risk of getting stuck in grandiose, fanatical loops. On the other hand, internal auditory loops, that little voice in your head, can lead towards paranoia. It's just an amazing reminder of how our specific biology actually shapes our psychology. So this all leads to the most important question of all, right? Are we just stuck with whatever our ratio is? Well, according to this model, the answer is a huge, resounding no. And this is the most empowering part of this whole idea. We can actively work to rebalance our own brains. You are not a prisoner of these loops. The brain is an incredibly flexible organ. With the right strategies, you can intentionally change your mental diet and you can break that cycle. So how do we actually do it? Well, the key is to consciously pump up that S value, your sensory input. Go out and seek novelty. Travel, learn a new hobby. Just change up your daily routine. Do things that use multiple senses at once. And finally, you have to activate the CEO of your brain, your prefrontal cortex. You do that by practicing critical thinking and by actively, consciously questioning your own internal loops. Which brings this all back around to you. This isn't just some abstract theory, it's a really practical tool for self-awareness. So take a look at your own life, your own routines, your own thought patterns, and ask yourself, what new experience, what new sensory input are you going to add to your mental diet this week to keep your own ratio in a healthy, adaptive balance?